Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me, of course, star of the show, former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, greatest trainer ever, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great. I'm looking for a cool place to vacation. Looks like you're in a really nice place right now. How about
Yes,
that? Where
yes,
can
yes.
you recommend any?
I'm in a nice resort in Lansdowne, Virginia.
That
So
must be
yeah, it's
nice.
nice.
That must be really nice. Sure. Okay. Well, when you're traveling the world and doing as many podcasts as you do, I mean, obviously, you wherever you go, you take your tools with you. So that's great, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that
Yeah,
out.
yes.
Sure. Hmm.
Yes, very cool. So what's going on in your world? I know NWA seems to be creeping on in.
Hey, you know what? I had a really great experience with the NWA in Knoxville when they came through doing the pay per view and did a TV the next day. And I, I got to tell you, I wasn't really sure about showing up, and I really didn't know what to expect. But walking in that locker room and seeing the guys who I knew and had a hand in training, like the Aaron Stevens, the Robert Anthony's, the Tyrus, gosh, a lot of guys in there that happen to come through FCW and even um, Deep South Wrestling. So it was a really good atmosphere. It was a really cool thing, and I got to sit in on the production meeting the next day and listen to their thoughts and the way they put things together. And one thing I noticed, and one thing that really stood out to me was, excuse me, the environment. I've been in those environments before, and I realize the guy who owns it, uh, sure, they love the business, and sure, they're fans, and sure, they want to see people succeed, but they're also businessmen, and they understand that there is no such thing as a bottomless pit. There is no such thing as an endless flow of money and resources. There has to come a time when you have to turn a profit. But um, I also saw the passion. I also saw a lot of the guys like Pat Kenny and Homicide and uh, some of the other agents. So Medusa Michelli was there as well, and she was awesome. Had a great time. I always enjoyed being around Medusa. She's always been a great person. And looking around, it seemed like that's a place for guys who can go and practice professional wrestling and get better at their craft. It's not mainstream right now, and it's only been I think Billy Corgan just bought it about 4 years ago. But as I said, there has to be a plan, and it seems to me that these guys have a plan, and whatever it is, they're going to follow through with it. And as the years go by, who knows what's going to happen? But we have with JPWA and myself an affiliation now with NWA, and hopefully give our guys with JPWA an opportunity to learn how to wrestle on pay per views and TVs and things like this, and become stars and become discovered. And Joe Kazana Promotions is also, I think, slowly but surely going to be coming under the banner of the NWA sooner rather than later. If not by the end of the year, certainly by the first of the year. And this is just my speculation. No, nobody's told me for actual fact this is what's going to happen. But I am happy and excited to see what NWA is wanting to do, the progress and the opportunities that are being afforded to these guys is something along the lines of, I think, when TNA first started, or Ring of Honor and AEW. They have the same platform to wrestle and offer ideas, try them out, and see what happens. Billy Corgan seems to be like he is a fan. He does appreciate wrestling. He does appreciate the business. I don't know him that well yet, but I hope to get to know him and find out his hopes and dreams and thoughts along the same lines. So I'm happy and proud to say that JPWA has an affiliation now with the NWA, and uh, going forward, hoping that um, hoping that these guys are going to come get bigger and better as they go, and get more talent. They have a huge roster of talent. Uh, I think they're just waiting to be seen again, and some have already been seen on the main stage. But times change, and if we've learned anything about professional wrestling, the one constant is change, and you never know where anybody's going to end up, or how the company's going to end up, or what's going to happen. To the cause and effects of professional wrestling are alive and well as we see these days. So the NWA is an offshoot. It's not the offshoot. It's the originator. It's the groundwork for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, for the American Wrestling Alliance under Vern Gagne and Vince McMahon Sr. So can it ever get that way again? Can it ever get to that point? I don't know. It's a different culture, different world, but anything's possible, and I'm pretty excited for what's about to happen.
Yeah, I interviewed Billy, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. It was a little bit ago, but I didn't realize what a fan he was. Like, he didn't want, I mean, we talk current product, but he was talking Harley Race, Ron Garvin, obviously Flair,
Yeah,
Dusty, but he's an old school fan.
yeah, old school fan, old school uh, connoisseur, I guess, if you will, and he he wants to make this thing succeed. He has a lot of product in the can that's been on YouTube or about to go on YouTube, and whatever that means, it means that he's storing up for something, and he's not one of those guys who I believe can sit idle very long. So he's got a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, I'm sure, in his head, and I'm just happy to be on board, and I'm happy to watch these guys and hopefully help these guys grow even more, because it's an exciting time if you can get another wrestling company out there that people are interested in. And the way you get them interested in is with the personalities, with the wrestlers, with the guys that have charisma, have the potential, have that it factor. And you never know where you're going to find it, but you need to have some place where you are allowed to display it. And we had some really great opportunities when they came to Knoxville. We had guys like the Stu Crew, Silas Mason, AJ Kazana, Brett Abel, who came from JPWA, given the opportunity to get in the ring and see what you could do. So he wants to see talent. He wants new talent, young talent, talent who's excited about professional wrestling just as much as he is. And that's a cool thing to see for me. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'm anxious to see what happens with it. I really am. So it's going to be awesome.
Pretty empowered. Kenzie Page and Ella
Kenzie
Envy
Page.
are the women's NWA Tag Team Champions as well. So a little bit of synergy there with you.
Yeah, man. Kenzie was in our first class. Kenzie, again, I think we talked about this before. Kenzie was there when Natalia and not Paige, Sasha Banks and Bailey came in the second week we were open. JPWA, they had a show in Knoxville, and they all stopped by before the show, and Kenzie was able to lock up with Natalia and Bailey and roll around a little bit. So she went from that to NWA Women's Tag Team Champion at 20 years old. So it's pretty cool to see that, knowing that the talent actually has to go out and pull it off. You can teach somebody all day long, but it's really up to the talent. It's really up to the people to go out there and do it. So that's another cool part about it. Yeah, pretty empowered as the NWA Women's Tag Team Champion. So it's great things to see, and I think there's going to be we were talking about MLW earlier, guys who are picked up from one organization and float to the next. Well, hopefully the NWA is going to be the organization that everybody's talking about. And who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5, possibly even 10 years. I mean, we're looking down the road. Hell, we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. Everything could be upside down again. But I was very, very impressed with the mood, the feeling, the vibe in the locker room. And that goes a long way to helping your product when you have people who are creative and competitive and enjoy being there all at the same time, and wanting to help everybody else get better too. Some say that's not conducive to helping you succeed, but culture changes all the time. The world changes all the time. So maybe that's what we need these days. The other way, I don't know if it's working right now or not, but I'm anxious to see, and I'm very grateful and happy to have this opportunity to be a part in the next TV tapings, St. Louis and Nashville, and then who knows? You know, if we have somebody at JPWA that's ready or needs to be ready or needs to be seen, you never know. There's an opportunity there.
Speaking of NWA, this guy would have been a great NWA champion back in the day. Eagle Fly 70 says, Dr. Tom, thank you for all you did for me when I was in developmental. Who is it? Charlie Haas.
Charlie Haas. Oh my gosh, man. Charlie, yeah. Awesome, man. But Charlie Haas is doing great in Texas right now because they have that organization. They're drawing great houses, man. Charlie is awesome. Thank you, Charlie. Very much. Yeah. Yeah. The Haas of Pain. We still go over that when we go over leg holds and leg locks. The Haas of Pain. It's awesome.
What do you think about him? Just his whole career, because the tag team Shelton Benjamin, World's Greatest Tag, they were awesome. They should have a longer run, but they were awesome.
Yeah, they were awesome, and they are awesome, and they would be a perfect team for NWA because they have again another team that trained with us at JPWA, the Stew Crew, Dylan and Zach Stewart. They're from Coalfield, Tennessee, and they're a great wrestling tag team, and Charlie and Shelton were a great wrestling tag team. And they would fit in perfect with the NWA and get in the title picture right away. So, yeah, Charlie and Shelton, I agree, should have gone farther. Should have had a much better run than they did. They had a pretty good run, and they had a pretty good guy by their side in Kurt Angle. So, yeah, they did awesome, man. Yeah, it's just a different style and different philosophy and different way of doing things. So. That's the great thing about wrestling is you can nowadays it seems you can find a place where you fit, and if you don't fit anywhere, you keep looking. And sometimes, man, it's the greatest thing to me is to see people who are lost, or to see people who haven't quite found their way yet, found their niche, and they're looking for that little something that sets them apart. There's a guy named Gustavo who also wrestled some dark matches at these tapings, but he's wrestling around Tennessee right now in the Carolinas. And he was a good worker, but he needed something else. He needed something to add to it. And he started with the dancing and the rows and the colorful shirts and you know, the what am I trying to say? The Hispanic dancing. And it gets a reaction. I told Austin Idol this at the tapings. You know, I learned it's not always how to put on a headlock or top wrist lock correctly. It's a lot of the gaga, a lot of the performance, and of course you have to say gaga with Idol. That's when he that's the best kind of language he understands.
Yeah,
but yeah, you know, he got it, and it's a whole bunch of that and a whole bunch of the other stuff too, but you got to find the right mix. And Gustavo found it. He's finding his way. He's becoming more comfortable, more natural, and finding his confidence along with that. So that's a huge element that's missing, or not missing, but I find it displaced. It's there, it's just misplaced, if I guess is the word. And once the guys find it, it's really a great feeling. Even if you didn't have anything to do with it, but you watched them and you saw them work with somebody else and watch them get it along the lines. So, yeah, that's a cool thing about the business right now is things are waiting. Yeah, just waiting for Sheldon to quit playing wrestling. Yeah, I know you're joking. We all are. We're all joking about that. But and you got to find your place. You got to find where you fit in and where you know you're welcome and things will work. But as I said, Charlie's doing a great job now. Texas, dude, you look fantastic. I've seen him ripped,
Yeah.
Training hard, and really getting into it again. And that, once you've been kicked, sometimes you get kicked around and thrown around, and you just you lose a little bit of your passion, and it takes something to get it back. But I will say this: I believe the 60s, 70s, and 80s were also the best wrestling decades. But the country was different, the world was different, and the business was certainly different. A lot simpler, a lot better. And I talked about this today too. Sinbo D put a video up on Facebook and was talking about Mickey James' tweet she put out a couple weeks ago, where she asked if everybody was just not protecting the business anymore.
Yeah.
If you sold, they said, imagine if you sold as much in the ring as you do when you're on Facebook. And I thought that's pretty clever. And Sin went on and talked about it, and he explained it in 15 minutes what she was talking about. And we know the genie's out of the bottle and the cat's out of the bag and all that other crap. But yeah, it is pre-internet and pre-cable. So the hard part hard part today is guys going out with the understanding that people are watching it different than they did back in the day, whatever the day was. For us, it was the 60s, 70s, and 80s decades. But the principle or the thought process should still be the same. You go out there and you don't just blatantly tell everybody, hey, we're working. You at least approach it from the attitude of it's simulated combat, and you believe who you are. You are who you are when you walk in the ring. You're not playing a character. You were that character. Terry Funk was that character. Jack Briscoe, Walt McDaniel, Valentine. That's the difference today. Guys are playing. Guys are letting everybody in on the rib. Here's what we're doing. And not that you necessarily have to say, hey, it's all a competition, but there was an old saying years ago, and I thought it made so much sense. I heard it from the time I was a kid. For those who believe, no explanation is needed, and for those who don't, no explanation will do. So either way, you still have fans today to a point who want to cheer and want to boo and want to have fun, but they don't want to have it just blatantly watch a couple kids go out there and play. They want to see some people go out there and look like they're going for real. It never was for real. It was all a performance. But the guys who approached it with the attitude of let's go out and give this impression it's a competition. And if you want to laugh, laugh. If you want to cry, cry. If you whatever it is, you don't see characters like Ox Baker or Bruiser Brody today. They don't exist because people don't know how to make them exist. In the world a long time ago, if you insulted somebody, and oh my God, if you said something to somebody on TV and they had a brawl, they made it look as real as possible. These days, everybody's getting in fights. I'm watching the fights. They'll film it on their cameras. Nobody's breaking anybody up. I'm talking about in public. I'm talking about gas stations, stores, and people just being complete idiots. There's no civility in the world whatsoever. It's going completely ape shit crazy. And therefore, they, you know, I don't know what I don't have any solution for that. But when you're coming to pay to see guys wrestle, you want to pay to see, at least put your effort into it and go for it. And there's a thing about if you're going to go hard for 30 minutes, the coaches will notice that. Go hard every time you go out there, and go hard every second you're out there. Guys like the original Sheik was scary. People ran from him because they weren't sure. It was a different world. But at the same time, you have guys like Mike Tyson, and Mike's calmed down a lot, obviously. But at the same time, people were scared of Mike Tyson. And when you build a guy as the baddest man on the planet, he was not that big of a guy. George Foreman was imposing, but Tyson is not that big of a guy, but he came across as that. That was the impression. He never broke character. And that's the problem today is everybody's working a regular job. So when they play wrestling at night, they don't know how to they're trying to play and be something they're really not. And again, in the old days, Dusty Rhodes was Dusty Rhodes. Terry Funk was Terry Funk. Again, I go back to Valentine because he was the one who said, I can't make you believe in wrestling, but I can damn sure make you believe in me. That doesn't exist today. Guys don't believe that because they don't believe it, because they know they're not tough, because they know they can't do those things. Bruiser Brody was a badass. He looked like a badass. He was a badass. So was Hanson. So was a lot of the guys who came through those days. And they knew it was a work. But they went out there and they drew money because people wanted to see these big badasses get in the ring and fight. Simulated or not, they got in the ring and they were given a hell of a show, a hell of an event, and most of the time people went home happy. So, and the Sheik in Cincinnati, Sheik in Detroit. The first time I ever met the Sheik, I think I've said this before, told the story before, but the Snake Man came back to the locker room, and I was just allowed to go in the hallway. And I knocked on the door, told them that they got the snake here. So she came out and says, God damn, that's a big snake. I didn't know he talked, but I knew he talked. I just never heard him talk. In public, he never let anybody hear him, see him any other way except being the Sheik. Abdullah was the same way. No, he never let anybody see him any other way except Abdullah. So I don't know that we can ever bring that back, but the element of mystery, danger, unpredictability, I think you can. When you have a guy like Andy Kaufman, I just watched a deal on George Carlin not too long ago, and they talked about how George was, as he was going through comedy was changing, and he was still doing the word thing, associating words and doing different bits like that. And then Kaufman came along, Steve Martin came along, and they were doing different stuff in comedy. Same thing with wrestling. You stick with the old school long enough, and then a new thing comes along, and then that becomes old school, and then a new thing comes along. I get that. But what never went away was the allure and the unpredictability. Guys with like Steve Martin and Andy Kaufman, you didn't know what you're going to get all the time. Even though it was geared towards that. And Andy Kaufman especially was geared towards making people uncomfortable. David Schultz was definitely David Schultz. That was no act, and he was like that back in the locker room. And I met David only one time in Mobile, but he was good. He was a cool guy, but he was a badass. He just didn't take any crap from anybody. And but when he went out to the ring, people believed it. He believed because he looked the part. He was tall. He was big, and he carried that aura, that presence about himself. So, long story short, you need guys like that, and you need guys like that who really want to do this. I don't know that the NIL thing is the way to go. And I say that because what happened with the guy who everybody praised, looked like Brock You remember him?
Gable Steve. Oh, Parker Bordeaux.
Parker Bordeaux. Boy, he was going to be a star. Boy, he was going to make it. Boy, we're going to teach you everything you need to know. Man, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. Some people just don't have it. Some people just don't understand what this is meant to be, and or should be. Again, when your Stone Colds or your Rocks or your Mankind's aren't there, and yet these guys watched them, but they watched them in the guise of, oh, this is all phony. This is all fake. I can do this. Then you come in and try and be fake and phony instead of the other way around, try and be real and believable. It's not going to work. And that was their NIL guy who everybody was so high on. And yet after, 6 months, they fired him? Or whatever. It wasn't a year, was it? Or whatever it was. They fired. Yeah. I don't even think it was a year. And Dick Murdoch, yeah, he was a mean guy too, but he sold. We just watched a match with Murdoch and Cox, Killer Carl Cox last week. And it's amazing, the punches. It's amazing, the selling. It's just it's a different level. It's a different level of selling, moving, pacing, and telling a story. Nobody's really telling stories anymore. They're doing really cool moves. Man, did you watch AEW tonight? Did you see the first match tonight? Because I'm home. And
I think that.
Orange Cassidy and Ethan Page. I haven't seen a lot of Ethan Page, but Orange Cassidy. And I know people say, you just don't get it. Yeah, you're right. I just don't get it. But that's the entertainment part of it. And I love the entertainment part of it. I just don't care for that part, that entertainment part where you keep out of a razor's edge. Cassidy went to keep going to put his hands in his pockets, and that was the story of the hold. And he goes and finally puts his hands in his pockets, breaks the hold, comes back and keeps his hands in the pockets, doing the moves. Okay, blatantly you're saying bullshit. Right. This is all bullshit. Okay, some people like the bullshit. I love bullshit. I really do. I think it's great when done in context. But yeah, anyway, yeah, it's just a different time. And everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own taste. And you're entitled to have that, even me.
Now, Orange Cassidy stinks. That should be resounding.
Well, some people feel differently, though, and that's okay. But again, going back to what we started talking about, the NWA, I would love to see guys come there and have the passion and want to do better. I know Nick Aldis feels that way. Matt Cardona could be the world champion there. And here's the thing. With a guy like Matt Cardona, putting the World Heavyweight Championship on him would not only make him a star, but it would boost his confidence to where he truly believes and lives and breathes the World Heavyweight Championship. Nick Aldis lives and breathes to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And you have to have that inside. You have to have that intuition. You have to have that gut feeling, and you have to have something about you that makes you believe you're the World Heavyweight Champion. Otherwise, it's not going to fly. Trevor Murdoch, who's the World Heavyweight Champion now, he's a throwback. He is a throwback, but has a respect for the business and wants to carry the title with that respect. So it's awesome to see. It's awesome to have a place where guys can go and apply their trade as professional, wrestlers. And the great thing about it is they have history they can point to. History the NWA can say. These are the guys who came through. And yes, there is a break in there to where now it started back up, but they still carry the history. And they still have the name to point to. And from Pinky George all the way up to, I think the last president was who? Eddie Graham or Bruce Thorpe, right?
Yeah, technically Bruce was, right? Yeah.
Bruce Thorpe, yeah. So, when Bruce gave it up, now Billy Corgan's taking it over. It's going to be an interesting ride, going to be an interesting journey. and not just for me and the guys there now, but for the guys who come later on, and for the guys who, because AEW is not going to be able to keep everybody. WWE is not going to be able to keep everybody, and Ring of Honor. I don't know. So there's an option for people out there. And there's an option for young guys coming in, new people coming in, and especially if you have something unique, at least, and WWE doesn't want you, AEW doesn't want you, or whoever doesn't want you, maybe somebody else will see something in you and know how to direct you. Nobody wanted The Undertaker in the beginning. Nobody wanted
Yeah.
Austin in the beginning. So that's a great outlook for me, man. That's a great avenue for guys to take, I think. And you can all poo-poo the notion, it's the NWA and it's not what it was. And no, it's not what it was, but it's going to be what it is, and it's going to be what Billy Corgan wants it to be. And if you talk to him, then he is a fan, and he has a passion for business, and he's not just one of these Mark guys who wants to go out there and do this with no purpose or intent. And I believe his purpose and intent is to build the NWA, make it strong, and make it something better, and or at least different than what it was. So that remains to be seen.
Lance Archer just did a black hole slam on Orange Cassidy into a pile of scorpions.
Oh,
How
wow.
crazy can they get? Interesting. Wow.
Well, why would you do that? I mean, I don't know. Orange Cassidy just worked, so he must be tired.
Crazy. Changing gears, though, I wanted to ask you about Cena because he returned, and Ibsen. Hello, Ibsen. Good pal of the show. 20 years of Cena. How was your interaction with him? Obviously, returned last night. What was your, I guess, any sort of training with Cena?
John was always awesome. John, here's another thing that really irks me about the attitude we find ourselves in today, not just in wrestling, but again, everywhere in the world, I guess. But John Cena has done over 650 Make-A-Wish wishes, right?
Yep.
The most anybody. He went to the Ukraine to make a wish for a kid not too long ago, last week or whenever it was. But yet, in the comments section, you had a guy who said, listen, I'm going to get heat on here, but I don't care. Okay, well, I know you don't care, so here you go. You got heat. Saying they're only saying that and using the Make-A-Wish as propaganda for Cena and just making it so he looks good. Nobody cares about the Make-A-Wish stuff. Well, he obviously doesn't know Cena. And I know I've heard good and bad, and everybody has negative, all that stuff. You ain't going to get to the top without getting enemies. You're going to have people with jealousy and envy in their bones. And John Cena is that guy. He does believe in the hustle, loyalty, respect. Is he human? Of course. Does he make mistakes? Definitely. But the thing is, I don't know anybody else going to the gym, working his ass off, going to Hollywood, conquering that too, conquered wrestling. He was a guy. Never had a problem out of him. 20 years, he's proved his worth. He's proved he's worthy of being a star. He's worthy of the recognition he gets. He does these outside charities that a lot of people don't hear about. But yes, you would want to exploit, or not necessarily. I mean, call it what you want. I guess exploit is a word. Make a wish. For someone who has a one wish, and they want to meet John Cena. And he does it. He doesn't run by him like the Ultimate Warrior. He doesn't diss him, like some of the guys have at the shows and things like this. He does understand his position. He does do this. And he's a human being like everybody else. He has his good days and bad days. The difference is he goes out no matter what. He pursues and carries through no matter what. Because he knows how people look at him. He knows what his reputation is. Uh, when he's away from wrestling, whatever vices he may or may not have, it doesn't come out and rear its ugly head in wrestling where he's making those kind of headlines. You know what I mean? He's not doing jail time right now. He's not worried about running into somebody's car at 60 miles an hour. So Cena has made it through pretty well. Has he fought for things? Has he done things that might be questionable in some people's eyes? I'm sure he has, because everybody's looking at it through their eyes. They don't see the other side of the coin. So I think John Cena is deserved of all the credits and accolades he gets. He's always been exemplary or a great employee, always been that guy that you look to. He was a guy that people set the standard by. So, and he was great during training. He was great when he was in developmental. Hell, he was great from day one. He wanted to be a star. He wanted to be in this position. He knew what he had to do, and he did it. You know, we all make mistakes. He got married one time, and that didn't work out. And then he got married for the second time, and hopefully he's happy. He's farther along in his career. He's farther along in his life, and you have to find somebody who understands that and is with you and not fighting you and not envious of the attention you're getting or anything like that. And I think Cena's done a great job. My God.
Cena seems like a nice guy, but half the crowd boos and thinks he sucks. That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the world we live in. You know, all the cops are criminals and all the sinners saints. You know, it's good and bad. It's upside down. It really is upside down. And a lot of people obviously don't know Cena personally, and some of the guys who know Cena professionally have jealousy and envy all over them, and they can't help it. So that's not on Cena. That's on them. And I think John's come to realize that you're not going to please everybody. And just reading some of the comments people made on the website, or not website, yeah, internet. I'm thinking there's no matter what you do, somebody's going to find something and just pick it out and shoot it down. So that's the world we live in today.
I'm a big Cena guy. Yeah. Never been a big Cena guy, but I love the Make-A-Wish stuff and all the stuff that he does for kids. It's amazing. And I know he sells a ton of merch. Yeah. RV says most successful superstar of all time. And Vince kept saying that. I was laughing because even Meltzer, who you would think would rip Hogan, because he's ripped Hogan for the last 40 years, was saying like he's not even close to as big of a superstar as Hogan, which is true, especially money-wise. But in today's era, he's probably the biggest guy.
Well, once again, I think if you look at the whole package, you look at everything combined, Hogan certainly was one of the biggest stars in the business. Yeah. No doubt. He's the one who revolutionized, I guess. I mean, and brought in the action figures, not dolls, but the toys, and when it was mainstream. Don't get me started on Massachusetts, but yeah. But you know, it was for this era. I mean, The Rock definitely came in, one of the biggest stars ever. But I'm talking about modern era, and for the last 20 years being consistent. For how many years was he on top? 15 consecutively, or when did he get on top? Like first 2 years. Either way,
kind of like 05 to 2014 for Cena, he was really kicking ass.
Yeah,
so really 10 years straight was, but still you can count today, and you can go back to 02, so you can say 20 years.
Yeah, but he carried the company on his back. He never dogged it. He came in. I'm sure he was tired many nights, but you know, doing the pre-match stuff, doing the signings, doing the meetings, doing everything that was asked, and he could come in with a sour attitude. He could come in and be a real dickhead, but he wasn't, for the most part. I wasn't in every appearance. I wasn't in every signing, But I have seen him when he's done a signing in an appearance and had to greet people, and knowing he had just had a 6 hour travel day, and he's just getting there after delays. And I'm sure he had a private, he got his bus whenever he got his bus. But, in the early days and even in the later days, it can be a daunting task for some. Not all, but for some of the guys, oh man, why do I got to do this? Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this, man. Come on, can you just tell them I'm sick? Things like that. So he never did that, and that's I think something to be commended for. I think that's something to point to and say, look, we have an example of a guy who will go that extra mile and doesn't bitch about everything. And I'm sure he bitched about some things, and everybody does. I mean, everybody's not perfect every single day. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is you got to give this guy props and credit for what he's done and his work ethic. So you can't tell me, and nobody can tell me that they're tired and you don't want to do it because Cena was tired too, and he knew that was his obligation, and he held up as part of the bargain. So. I can't say enough good things about Cena.
We'll go to some random questions here from Q&A style. David says, what did you think of the Brother Love show?
I loved it. No, I thought Bruce did a great job with the Brother Love show. Really did. But that was always Bruce. He was always that loud, obnoxious personality. I mean, that's how he was in the back. That's how he was at home. That's how he was growing up. Just always loud and boisterous, and he could be entertaining. We all sound alike, jerk.
You sound like Bruce.
Yeah, we do. We all sound alike.
New Jack, Hall of Fame. We always get a Hall of Fame question. New Jack. Wow, that would be an interesting one.
Well, that would be an interesting one. It sure would. And I think Jack realized, that he might have gone too far at times. I think later on in life, you do realize that sometimes you don't know where the line is until you cross it. And like I said, I had nothing but cool times with New Jack. But I understood him, and I think he understood me.
What was the first interaction with Cena? Would that be developmental OVW?
Yeah, that would be OVW, and he was cool then. Just haven't seen him in a few years, so but I'm sure he's doing great now. But he was a good guy then, and just trying to make his mark, working his ass off, and again, I had no issues with him whatsoever.
Did you ever work with Chris Colt?
Yes, and yes. And let me tell you, I saw Chris Colt wrestle when I was a kid in Houston. And I'll never forget this because he was coming to the ring and Tiger Conway Sr. was coming back from the ring. And he passed right in front of us. And Chris grabbed a cop in Houston and said, "Hey, I want you to arrest this guy for impersonating a wrestler." And I thought, damn, that was great. But I met Chris when I was in the business later on in Continental Wrestling in Alabama. And he would come in the locker room. He used to be a roadie for Janis Joplin. Yeah. And he would come in the locker room. Yeah. He would come in the locker room with his boom box and his scarves. And he would go over to a place. If the locker room had like some of these dressing rooms had the mirrors with the lights on them, whatever they're called, and set up his boom box and play his music and put on makeup. And he was a character. He was a perfect character for this business. And I got along great with Chris. Yeah, he was awesome.
Let's see here. Will wrestling ever have territories again?
I think that'll be kind of hard because you have cable and internet and stuff like that. I could see. I mean, when you say territories, I'm talking about weekly towns, and that won't happen. As far as the territory, maybe such as Knoxville, Nashville, uh, 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 Virginia, St. Louis, something like that. That I could see a territory and such. But as far as being the only game in town and branched out, I think it's the territories of the United States, the territories of the world these days.
What did you think of the aftermaths and some of the outrageous stories that he came up with?
I thought they were awesome because I knew they were outrageous and stupid and crazy and all that stuff. But you remember when Apter used to have the bloody pictures of Heenan on the cover
Oh
and
yeah,
that was their deal. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they always had the blood and guts and stuff like Abdullah the Butcher will cut your baby out of your stomach and shit like that. So I mean, I thought the outrageousness was all part of it. Excuse me, but I loved them too, and I bought them too. Yeah, the aftermaths were completely ludicrous, but they knew what they were selling. They knew what they were doing. And I remember Bill telling me that every time they put Dusty Rhodes on the cover, that was where they made their most sales. Yeah,
nice.
Dusty Rhodes sold, man. He told me a story too, Bill Apter, about Mascaras wanting to take a picture, or Bill wanting to take a picture of Mil Mascaras and Dusty Rhodes together and put it on the picture, put it on the cover. And Dusty was on one end of the hall, and Mascaras was on the other end. It was one of those setups, and so Bill asked Dream, and Dream said, "Well, tell him to come down here." Yeah, so we went down and talked to Mascaras. Mascaras said, "Well, tell him to come down here." So it was that ego.
Yeah,
I'm not coming. No, you tell him to come to me. Well, they met in the middle, and they took the picture and put it on the cover. But once again, you don't have those two characters. You don't have those two personalities out there today that would dare. I don't know if they would dare do it or not, but to go out to say, "Hey, no, you come to me. No, you come to me. I will meet in the middle," type thing. And they both did it because they knew it was going to be on the cover. But it was just the games they played and the egotistical bullshit that went on. It still goes on today, just in a different level.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bash, what was it like meeting wrestling the late Nick Bachwinkle?
Well, again, that was kind of awesome. And I worked with Nick on TV in San Antonio. And Nick had me in a hammerlock. And as I tried to come up, he said, "Grab my head." Well, I did. And somehow my fingernail scratched him across the forehead. And blood started trickling down. And I'll never forget, we watched it back, and Paul Bosch said, "And Nick Bachwinkle is bleeding, and it was Tom Prichard who made him bleed." And I thought, oh Christ. I don't know if he's ribbing Nick or ribbing me, but yeah, Nick was great. I enjoyed being around Nick.
Have any Al Snow stories?
Well,
Oh, too many?
no, I don't know if it's too many or not. I really don't because I didn't travel with Al too much. In fact, I don't think I ever traveled with Al, but I always appreciated Al's knowledge and his passion because Al had a school. I don't remember where it was, but it was somewhere in Ohio, I think, up around the Sheik's territory, where he had a dorm where guys could stay in the school and they practiced and trained there. And I thought that was awful cool. That was pretty cool. I wish we had something like that too. But no, I really don't have too many Al stories. In fact, I have none. I have no Al stories.
Ever tangle with exotic Adrian Street from Phil?
Yes, I did. An exotic Adrian Street. That was, and I enjoyed Adrian and Linda. And had dinner at their house a couple times too, and would just sit around and talk and bullshit. But Adrian was one of those guys. back in the day when being gay was considered being a heel. And Adrian did it better than anybody at that time. But when he got in the ring, he would do the flit and the dance, and he'd kiss you and try and do all that stuff and pinch you on the ass and things like that. And then he would just beat you up and tie you in knots, and there's nothing I could do about it. So it was like, man, this isn't this isn't conducive to having a good match. He did wrestling, and he put you in these English wrestling holds that I had no idea how he was doing it. I had no idea how to get out of it. So he had to let you out of it, which made no sense. And but I like being around Adrian in the back and having dinner with him. But once you got in the ring, oh my God, he'd eat you up, or he'd eat me up. He ate most people up that got in the ring with him just because that was what he did.
Who do you think is the GOAT, all-around GOAT from the Jerk?
Well, growing up, for me, it was the Funks. And then as I got older and got in the business, that for that era, I think being the greatest all the way around entails knowing how to get the match over, knowing how to get yourself over, your opponent over. And there were some guys like Savage, like Hogan, Steamboat. Gosh, I'll even say Cena. I'll say Flair. But as far as being the greatest of all time, that I think we have to go by eras. And in this era, especially right now, in my opinion, it's got to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. And I'm going to have to go with two because Brock is authentic, Roman Reigns is authentic, and they don't break character, which is cool.
Was Austin Idol ever a draw? Yeah, Memphis.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
that might have been Lawler, one of his most lucrative feuds, Austin Idol.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking again in Knoxville when NWA came in, and I was reminding him of the 4 Flat Tires promos with the Freebirds. And that's a classic storytelling program. They did it like, I don't know, 4 or 5 segments and told that story. And Idol was a draw. Idol knew how to, again, do the gaga. And people wanted to see the guy with the long blonde hair in the robe walk down in the Las Vegas leg lock. Daddy, baby, oh, come on. Hey, referee. That kind of stuff. So, and yes, Austin Idol did steal that 5,000 check written on a mattress and cash it in the bank. Yeah. And he told me, he says, hey, it was made out to me. So he went ahead and did it. I'm sure it didn't do him any favors in the end, but hey, Garvin took the boat and Idol cashed a check.
How great is that?
Well, to a point, you're over with the boys, but then you got to realize in business, the promoter's going to say, can we trust this guy? Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
So you can't do that today.
A little bit of a jokey question here, but a funny one. Do you think Trevor Murdoch would fare well riding through Georgia with a basket of biscuits and gravy?
Well, now, didn't Cornette get in trouble for something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He said something.
So there you
go.
Yeah. Ethiopia is like riding through.
Yes.
If you say riding through Ethiopia on a motorcycle with a bucket of chicken or something. It's like, man, you could get away with that years ago, but obviously today everybody gets butt hurt and cancels everything. So.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very, very true.
Oh, okay, cool, Jerk. Yeah.
From JD, were the Garvins related, and did you have any interactions with them?
No and yes. I had interactions with Ronnie and I had interaction with Jimmy. I told the story, I think, many times.
No, they are related. Ronnie is his stepfather, technically related.
Oh, maybe stepfather. That was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. They didn't say that. They said they were brothers, I thought.
Oh
They're gonna
yeah,
say,
which is totally wrong. Yeah, yeah,
okay, so in that aspect. But yeah, Jimmy
yeah.
Garvin and Brian Blair are the ones that got me to do a one boot battle royal. So a lot of
Oh,
interaction with them.
really?
Yes.
Wow, interesting, interesting. See, I
Yes.
saw another good one. Oh, Miss Linda could beat up a lot of today's wrestlers. She was also a shooter.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a tough girl, tough lady. Nice lady. But you're right. She could beat up a lot of the yesterdays during her day wrestlers. She was Adrian Adrian wasn't always nice to her. He would talk to her like a they loved each other, but that's why he got away with it. She was with him 24/7, so you can imagine being on getting on your nerves, being around the same person
Yep.
24/7. Adrian wasn't easy to live with, no doubt. So
Gas prices are too high. Yes, I agree.
no kidding. God,
It's insane. It's insane out there.
yeah. What are we gonna do about that?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. This is just a funny one because I don't know if you've been asked this before. We probably have. Montreal work, shoot, rib. What was Montreal?
Well, it was a rib to some people, but I was in the studio in Stanford watching the show, watching everything. And as soon as it happened, I went, "Oh man, they just screwed Brett," because you could tell by the reaction. There's something about it, and yeah, a lot of stuff's more real than people ever know. But that was definitely not a work.
I don't have a copy with me, but let's talk about your book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice,
What? Wait
Suggestions,
a minute!
Stories.
You didn't pack my book when you were going, knowing you had to do this show.
Yep,
What
I
in the hell
didn't
is
pack
wrong
it.
with you? Okay. Well, you can get my book at yeah, jpwrestlingacademy.com, and you just click on the homepage and it's right there. It comes right up for you. You can order it. And once again, that's jpwrestlingacademy.com.
Also, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com. Visit the JPWA store or the Dr. Tom store. I love the Dr. Tom shirt, dead or alive. Wanted dead or alive. So, good shirt there. Obviously, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. You can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Check out my website, tmptempire.com. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on?
Well, being the patriotic fellow I am, we are going to start our next class. This will be the third class. Wow. Third class JPWA starts July 4th, goes through September. So we're looking forward to another great session. Summer session, going to be a hot one. But we have some people coming. We even have a gentleman coming from France this time to JPWA.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's awesome, man. Getting people from all over the globe inquiring and actually making the leap and traveling over here. So that's good to see.
One final question that snuck in here. I missed it. I heard Dr. Tom mention a lot of name for GOAT, but who is the best women's wrestler of all time?
I know a lot of people want to say Wendy Richter, but I have to say Sherry Martel, and Medusa's not far behind her either. But Sherry, I thought, had everything you needed from attitude to talent, because I knew Sherry a little better than I know Medusa, and on that fact alone, I just think it's got to be Sherry, and a close second's got to be Medusa.
Ooh, I tend to agree there, but that's it for this week. Thank you, Dr. Tom. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for all the questions. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.